G'day everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be doing something a fair bit different from what I've done on the channel in the past, and we're going to be taking a look at KanColle collection. Now, today's goal is to provide a basic understanding of 3 of the most important resources that I think you should be using if you're wanting to play this game in 2023. Those being Noro, Akashi List, and KCNav. Now, before we get into each of those, I want to just quickly address the fact that, well, I'm actually playing this game in English. For those of you who may not be aware, KanColle is pretty much exclusively a Japanese game, so you might be wondering how on earth I'm actually managing to play this in English. And that all thanks to Orodimi and his little crew that have managed to put together this absolutely fantastic English patch. I've linked his channel and video in the description, and he goes through an absolutely phenomenal job of not only how to start playing the game, but also setting up the English patch and downloading all the assets necessary for that. So credit to him and his team for developing that. Link to his channel if you want to go check that out. Anyways, moving on from that, we are going to first be taking a look at Noro. Now, what is Noro, you might be asking? Noro is essentially an air simulator that can help you predict what the outcome of your, well, battles may look like, depending on different enemy compositions, and helping you predict what kind of, say, air power you might be needing to bring. Now, in this example I've got here, I've actually set up a fleet for World 6.5. Reason I'm doing this is because, well, it is quite well known that you actually have to use Elbas for the final node for this boss. So this is my fleet set up here, and we are going to be taking the south path. How do I go ahead and check that? Well, what we're going to go do is we're going to quickly go visit the wiki here. The English wiki is a fantastic resource that pretty much should be using as well, and we're going to go down here and we can see we've chosen the south route, 2 BBV, 1 CAV, 1 CL, and 2 DD. And that's going to take us through nodes B, F, I, J, and M. And it's important to note this going into the simulator so you're actually able to set things up properly. In saying that, I'm just going to quickly show you what my LBAS looks like, just so you get a nice idea of where we're going. This is my current LBAS in both slots 1 and 2, and we've got them both set to sortie. Now the question is, how on earth do we go ahead and actually access the simulator? Firstly, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the top right here, we're going to click on this arrow twice, we're going to go to this button here, we're going to hold control, and we're going to left click on it. What that's going to do is it's going to go here, and we're going to open up Noro. Now, as you saw before, we had our Elbas selected before in World 6.5. So if I go just to here again, I'm going to quickly show you setting up my Elbas for base 2 and see what that looks like in Noro. So firstly, if your page is not in English here, what I want you to do is come across to site settings, and you can go ahead and click English here. What this will allow you to do is obviously read everything in English. If you want to change any of the UI stuff, you can go here and adjust that. Otherwise, all your stuff here, this is what kind of proficiency the Noro is going to assume your planes are at. You can customize that here as you may wish. Other than that, you can leave all the rest of this, unless you want to change, say, something like the color theme. I like dark, but that's just me. And we're just going to click here. So let's set up our Elbas base in number 2, and let's just see how that goes. So firstly, let's put this M22A Elbas in. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to select this slot here, and we're going to find our aircraft. Here's the model 22A. So we click that, and as you can see, we're missing our proficiency on it. So what we're going to go ahead, we're going to select this button here, and we're going to match the proficiency with what we've got on our planes. Going back across, we can now see we've got a Nonica that we need to add. So we're going to go back down to this slot. We're going to find where's our Nonica, which is here. And we're going to add our proficiency again, which is going to be, in this case, this one. Now, what we're going to do is we got a couple of improvements made to our Nonica. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and click on this button here. It's going to bring up this little menu, and we've got 2 stars. So we're going to add 2 stars to it. We're going to repeat the same process here for going through with our Ginga, like so. And lastly, we've actually got a carrier-based fighter here, the 0 Model 21 skilled. So what we're going to do, we're going to go down here. We're going to go ahead and select the carrier fighters. Come across to here, locate where our Model 21 skilled is, and put that in. Now you do the same for Elbow Space number 1, but I've already got that set up here. And this is what this looks like. Now, one thing that is important to note is this method here, you have to do this unfortunately for the normal worlds such as World 7.4, World 6.4, and World 6.5. However, if you're setting up your Elbast for events, you don't actually need to do that at all. It should automatically import when you do the control click from the KC3 panel, but that's just something to keep in mind. Once you've got this though, however, we're going to scroll down a bit and we're going to see, just make sure your fleet is identical to setup is identical to what you have over here. Mine is. So what we're going to do, we're going to scroll down here. Now this is very important how you do the order of this, because otherwise you just have to go back again. So firstly, we're going to click on node and we're going to go ahead, we're going to select our map. So we want to find world 6.5. Excellent. And where are we starting? We're starting in node B. Now, if you can remember from the wiki, we'd said we're starting from nodes B, F, I, J, and M for the south route. So B, F, I, J, and M. So that means our starting node is going to be node B. We click the expand button and that should close. Now we're going to add the total number of battles. In this case, 5. The reason we select the map in the first node first before doing the number of battles is because it can auto close the number of battles after you select the first node, which is a little bit annoying, but that's all right. So we're going to go ahead now, going to select node F, click expand, node I, click expand, and so on and so on. So once we get to the boss, one of the important things I'm going to note here is the fact that Noro is actually quite good in this regard, and it automatically selects the hardest composition you can find. Why is that important, you might be asking? And that shows you the strongest air states that you might need to overcome. This is important because if you plan for the strongest air state that a composition may provide, it means you should be able to always cross that threshold, which is very, very important. So for example, as we can see here, look at the requirements here. Air supremacy, air superiority, air parity, and air denial. You can see what the values are for that. And if we go into number 3, which is the weakest composition, you can see how different the numbers are here. So that's why Noro is quite good in the fact that it plans for the hardest composition, so it makes your life a little bit easier. So once we've done that, just click expand, and now we've got all our nodes in. Now the important thing is we want to go ahead and select targeted node, and we're going to go select nodes M for all of our bases. That means we're going to sortie all of the bases to this node. So we're going to click the X, we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to click on this recalculate button. Every time you make a change in Noro, I highly recommend clicking this button just to make sure it's completely up to date. So you can see here, calculation completed plus 100,000 times, and we're going to scroll down. Now you can see how the air state is developed here. Firstly, we can see how base 1 has turned out. So waves 1 and 2 in base 1, we can see it is turned out to be in air parity. Base 2, waves 1 and 2 have actually resulted in air denial when they've sorted out, and our final fleet status shows us as actually having air superiority. Now if we take a look at the actual probability, however, you can see our first LBAS base here has actually got 100% in terms of air parity. Nothing we can change there. Our second LBAS base, 100% for air denial in the first one, but the second wave, it's got a 0.02% in air parity and 99.98% in air denial. You don't really need to worry about that percentage too much, but the one I want to pay attention to here is the fleet fighter power. As you can see, we've got a 75.88% chance of having air supremacy and a 24% chance of air parity. Keep in mind, if you do get unlucky, you can actually obtain air parity, which does mean you lose stuff like artillery spotting if you have that set up on your battleships. So just keep that in mind. It is always better to have it, say, at 100%, if not higher, but 75-76% should be more than enough to cover you for when you go into these sorties. And this here is pretty much the basic premise behind Noro. You're able to determine down through this little panel here exactly how your fleet is looking out to be and what the air state is going to be. The important ones being your 2 LBAS waves, and obviously your final one being your fleet, seeing how that actually does develop overall. With that being said, that's Noro. Let's go ahead and move on to looking at Akashi List. Akashi List here is essentially a complete guide of everything you can possibly upgrade in KanColle, using Akashi as your flagship and a second ship as your secretary. Or sorry, not secretary, helper ship. So, how on earth do we help decide what on earth we should be upgrading first? What's the best ones to be doing? What's not quite so worth it? Because there's a lot of stuff to be doing here. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to link this document in the description as well. And this is the Akashi Improvement Guide. I would highly recommend people to check it out. It is very, very useful. There is 2 sets here. There is a beginner set and there is an intermediate/general set. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go back to our Akashi list. I'm going to click on this paperclip icon. We're going to go back to here and we're going to select whichever list you want to use. I'm just going to select the beginner set, but if you're up to the intermediate stages of the game, select the intermediate list. I'm going to go on this. I'm going to copy this across. Once we go back to our Akashi list, you're going to hit Control-Shift-I if you're on Chrome or F12. If you're on Opera GX like me, hit Control-Shift-J. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to paste this in. Once this has now been pasted in, I want you to hit Enter. And now what you're going to do is refresh the page. Once the page has been refreshed, your Akashi list should look something a little bit like this. And this is all the best beginner stuff that you should be using according to the guide. And you can have a read through which ones you should really be doing first. In saying that, let's actually work out how on earth we use this. So, for example, today I'm recording this on a Saturday, so I want to go down to here and select Saturday for only the equipment that can be improved on a specific day. Now that I've selected that, now I've got to decide what equipment I want to be upgrading. So for example, let's go ahead and say, let's choose the 46cm triple gun, and because that is available to be improved today. So let's click that. And let's take a look at what's being said. If you're confused and unable to understand what's going on here, click on the hyperlink up here where it says Wiki EN, and that's going to take you to the English Wikipedia page of said equipment. So as you can see here, the 46cm triple gun mount. Going back to here, and we can see there's a whole bunch of different numbers, different pictures, what on earth that this might be meaning. So let's take a look at this table first here. All these different numbers, they mean something different. Now, this +1, star 1, sorry, star 2, star 3, these are all your different levels of Akashi upgrades. So this is your, obviously, star number 1, and this is max number of stars before it upgrades to something else, or it's just maxed out. If you're not quite sure what each of these mean, going by the Wiki EN link at the top here, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the page here, you'll be able to see there's a little box here that's listed as improvement effects. And what that means is when we correspond the tables, you can see firepower here. When you improve each of the stars here, when you get to a max firepower on this gun, you get a plus 4.74 to your damage. In terms of your night battle power, you get 3.16 in addition. And to your accuracy, you get 3.16 better accuracy on this gun. And that does make a huge difference. Now, the important thing to note is there's certain things called breakpoints. And these breakpoints are each time you hit a series of whole numbers. So, for example, with this weapon, what is the breakpoints on each of it? Well, the first breakpoint would be at 1 star, where we can see it's plus 1.5, plus 1, and plus 1. The next series of breakpoints would be here at 4 stars, where it's plus 3, plus 2, and plus 2. The final series of breakpoints is going to be here at 9 stars, where it's plus 4.5, plus 3, and plus 3. And if you want to double check what each of these are, there should be firepower here in this top row, night battle power here in this middle row, and then accuracy in this bottom row here. And these are the very important numbers. Obviously, you're going to be a little bit better at 10 stars, but just getting to those breakpoints is hugely beneficial. Now, moving down, we're going to take a look at this right-hand table here on the right hand side, and this is showing you who can upgrade this particular equipment and on what days. So today, as you can see, we have got two versions of Yamato Base and Yamato Kai, Musashi and Musashi Kai. So Yamato, as you can see, she's got these highlighted blue boxes, and that's each of the days she can upgrade them. This last one here is got a strong blue highlight, and that's corresponding, as you can see on the left here, with our days as being Saturday, meaning she can upgrade this particular weapon today. Yamato Kai, as you can see here, can only upgrade, say, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Musashi Base can only do it on Sunday and Monday, and Musashi Kai can only do it on Monday. So just keep paying attention, because certain ships can only help improve something on a certain day. Now, if we want to go improve our weapon from 0 to 5 stars, as you can see here, you're going to need a minimum of 6 dev mats and a minimum of 4 screws. And you will also need at least another 46cm triple gun turret in order to help improve the weapon. Once you reach the next series of upgrades, which is your 6 through to max, you're going to have to use a minimum of 8 dev mats, a minimum of 5 screws, and 2 of these 46cm triple gun mounts. Once you reach max and you want to convert it to your next upgrade weapon here, as we can see, which is the 46cm Kai, you need a minimum of 18 dev mats, a minimum of 12 screws, and you need 4 of these gun turrets and 2 gun mats. And what that'll do is that'll suddenly transition this from a 46 triple gun turret to a 46 triple gun turret Kai. Now, if we want to take a look down the very bottom here, as we can see, this is the total upgrade path with this weapon that you can go on, and just the general cost of well, in terms of dev mats and screws you might need. So this little ribbon in the top left, it shows you the current version of the equipment that you've got, and that's the 46 triple gun turret. And as you can see, it will upgrade to the 46 triple gun turret Kai, the 51cm, and then the max 51cm. And you can just see the costs increasing as they go along, and that's just what the requirements are. At bare minimum, you're going to need 110 dev mats and 69 screws. From the 46 gun Kai to the 51cm, 156 dev mats and 82 screws, and so on until this gun gets completely maxed out. That will show you the overall progression, and it's actually quite useful to see this down the bottom. Now, if you come down to the very bottom here, one thing you might note if we go back to the wiki is that you can see here that it says this equipment is buildable. When you go onto here, you'll see this is the build formula people have been using, and this is the percentage chance people have actually observed when trying to build this equipment. This is the overall number of times this has occurred. So number of times it's dropped, number of times this build formula has been used. So if you ever want to build it, a buildable equipment that is, just go over here to the left, see what the highest build number is, and just copy that, and just obviously pray for getting the weapon. Down the very bottom here, you can take a look and see which ships the equipment comes stock on. So Yamato level 1, Musashi level 1, Musashi Kai at level 40, and Yamato Kai at level 40 will each give a base 46cm. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense with regards to the Akashi list. Let's move on now to the final section, and that's going to be KCNav. KCNav is a fantastic resource that has been developed by Chami, and thank you so much for the work he does with this. It is absolutely incredible. Now, there's 2 sections here, as you can see. One is the navigator, which is the main one we're going to be looking at today, and the mission control, which is the quest tracker. The quest tracker, whilst being obviously quite useful, is unfortunately not quite up to date. So for some quests, yes, you can still see what quests are needed to, well, obviously complete before going on to other quests. Unfortunately though, some of the quests are not quite up to date on that, so it's a bit hit and miss at times. However, let's take a look at the navigator in the meantime. Taking a look at the navigator, when you click on it, you're going to be greeted by this blank screen. So firstly, we're going to select the map we want. So if we want to choose one of the current maps, let's choose, for example, World 7.5. However, if we want to choose, say, one of the event maps when that is occurring, just click on event maps and click on the current event that's going on. First, we're going to click event world 7.5 and we're going to hit apply filters. That's going to bring up the map in its current state. Now, one thing to note with, say, the event maps in particular, if you want to choose a particular difficulty you might be doing, so say, for example, you are choosing to do the first event map on easy, you can go here, select easy, and you can see all the information regarding people who've sorted on this map on easy mode. You can choose another option here, which is whether the map has been cleared or not. This checkbox over here on the right is showing us like the time frame of which this is taking place over. So this is end of, and at the moment it is automatically set to a 1 month time period. You can customize this as you wish, but I tend to just leave it. Now, World 7.5 has actually got 3 stages. So let's just take a look at each of the stages one by one. So if we want to do stage 1, come to this unlock stage box here, and we're going to select number 1 and number 1. Going to hit apply filters, and all of a sudden you'll see the numbers change until it just shows well, routes for the first node. So what these darker arrows mean is the number of sorties that people have been taking along this path. So more, well, the larger the number and the darker the color, that means more people have been sorting this way, which should give you an idea of the recommended pathway that people are taking. Taking a look now, if we want to say switch to stage 2, we can go ahead and say if we want to include stages 1 and 2, we can go stage 1 to 2 like so. Otherwise, we can go stages 2 through to 2, and that should only show stage 2 here. Okay. Now, if we want to, for example, here actually take a look and see some of the information regarding the boss at phase 2 boss, what we're going to do is we're going to head and click on it. Let's go and take a look at some of the compositions that people have been bringing. So if we click comps, you can see the most run composition that people have been running on this node here, and that's going to be a BBV, so aviation battleship, aviation cruiser, so CAV, light cruiser, CL, and then 3 destroyers here. And that's been run 2,101 times, so you can get a bit of an idea what people think are the best composition to be bringing here, as the next best option here has only been sorted 80 times in comparison. If we go ahead and click on the fleets tab here, we can actually get an example of some of the setups that people have been using. Now, is this setup always going to be the best? No, because at the end of the day, it is just what players have been running, and players aren't always correct. As we can see, for example, here, with the current settings, we can see the current route that this player has taken, where they've gone through node A, B, D, F, J, O, and then on to Q. And as we can see, we can also take a look at the equipment that, say, Megami, for example, is running. Here, if you hover over it, I know this is unfortunately not popping up on screen, but it does state she is running a 203 number 3 with 6 stars on it, as you can see by the little number 6 down here. A 203 number 2 twin gun mount, and then a type 2 seaplane fighter Kai, and then a Zwin 634 skilled. Are these equipment setups necessarily the best ones you should be running? No, they're not, and I would highly recommend people to take a look and ask around in Discord for optimized fleet setups, because these ones are not always going to be the best. Taking a look at the top ships tab, for example, however, you can see what kind of ships people are bringing to this map. As we can see, Mogami in her Kaini Toko configuration has been run 2,076 times to no Q. Yahagi in her Kaini B configuration has been brought 1,837 times. Amagiri has been brought in her Kaini D configuration 1,210 times, and so on and so on. And you can just get an idea of what the most popular ships to bring to a particular node might be. Line of sight, I haven't used this too much myself, but it is quite useful for checking out all of the different values for different CNs, so CN 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can just click between them just to get a bit of an idea of maybe what the line of sight requirements actually are needed. But in honesty, you shouldn't really need it, because you'll either find out through the wiki or through Discord if there is a line of sight check. The bonuses tab is cool to note. Like, you can go ahead and see what kind of bonuses. So for example, your Kakaze on this map has got a minimum bonus of 1.12 and a max of 1.16, but this is just what's been observed so far and may not always be accurate, but it's useful stuff to at least keep in mind if you're wanting to try and maximize what's going on. Just keep in mind what it's stating here. Equipment bonuses and enemy weaknesses can also cause some, say, false positives, okay? The most important tab on KCNav, in my opinion, is going to be this enemies tab. And why is this extremely important? Well, for a start, it shows you what enemy fleet you could be fighting here. So for example, if we take a look at this top one here, we can see we're fighting an artillery imp, an airfield princess, a supply depot princess, an artillery, a PT imp pack, and 2 transports. And you can also get an idea of what kind of form they're going to be fighting in. As you can see, it's a diamond formation. And we've also got one of the more important things here as well is the air states, right? So in order to have an air state of air denial, you need to be bringing at least 39 air power. If you want to have an air state of air parity, you need to be bringing at least 77. If you want to have an air state of at least air superiority, you need to be bringing an air power of 177 at least. And in order to have air supremacy, you need to be bringing an air power consisting of at least 342. And this is something where KCNav and Noro come hand in hand, because once you've checked what the air state compositions here are on KCNav, you can then go ahead back onto Noro and actually consider, hey, this is what I'm building, and just plug it into the different maps and take a look and see, hey, is this actually going to work for me, or do I need to change some requirements around? And that's where this is most useful. Moving on to the drops tab, this one's quite useful if you're trying to farm for, say, particular rare ships, or you're after something. It's really, really useful to note. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select Node Q because it's got a bit better drops for me to showcase in this scenario. As you can see here, the drops look terrible. For example, Perth, there's 0.38% drop chance. Yeah, that doesn't seem quite right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select dupes and we're going to switch that to 0. Because if you don't have, say, a particular ship, and that's mainly the reason why you're probably farming for them. So we're going to hit 0 for that. And with any luck, you're going to be S ranking the node each time, because that's how you're going to get the best drops. So we're going to remove that, and we're just going to go after S ranks with no dupes. Once we've got that, we're going to click this button here labeled filter, and what's going to happen is all of a sudden the percentage chances are going to change because now the numbers have been updated. So as we can see, Perth went, say, from a 0.38% to a 1.77% chance of actually dropping, which is a lot better than, well, less than 0.4% chance. Now, however, some of these numbers may not be accurate. As we can see with, say, Kawakazi or Mizuho, they have had less than 100 drops in total, which is not ideal. So just keep that in mind whilst you are looking to farm for, say, some particular nodes. If these numbers are red, it means there is not a huge amount of data set from them just yet. Okay. In saying that, I believe that's all that needs to be said regarding KCNav. I hope people have found this guide to be actually really quite useful. I hope it has helped you in some way. If you did enjoy this and do want to consider seeing more of this stuff in the future, please have a look at hitting that like button, maybe consider subscribing. Anyways, thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll catch you guys next time. Peace all.